Hello and welcome to Stampscapes 101, or Stampscaping 101. I am going to do, it's going to be a really quick scene here with some Stardream Lapis Lazuli, okay? And what I've done is I've taken a 1-inch punch right here, round punch, and we're going to make a moon onto this. So, real simple. You're just going to mask off like so. And I have some Brilliance Moonlight White. It's a nice fast-drying pigment ink. On the Lapis Lazuli, I would recommend the Brilliance for this. Sometimes there might be some types of pigment inks, other types that will dry on here. I mean, give it a try, if you don't have some Brilliance. Do a little test and see if the Lapis Lazuli, or the pigment ink that you have will dry on whatever paper you're using. You don't have to use the Stardream either. You can go for a dark, cardstock or something like that. Construction paper even, construction paper will dry no problem, your regular inks. And by regular inks, I just mean any other type of pigment ink. The Brilliance ones just have a kind of some kind of solvent in it for quick drying, especially on non-porous papers. Lapis Lazuli is a little bit porous, but it's somewhat sealed off, so some inks just don't dry in there very well. Okay, so we have our moon like there. Let's make this moon glow a little bit by kind of using a very dry applicator, okay? A lot of people who try this technique of applying pigment ink with a cotton ball think this is a hard process because they're getting blobs everywhere just because they have way too much ink on this. So every time they touch it, it's going blob, blob, blob. Okay, now watch this right here. Just as a technique type of thing. Watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See that 10th thing? You see this little tiny smudge, right? Now this is a little bit too dry, okay? But that's kind of a little bit more in the spirit of what we're going after, okay? All right, so let me ink up right here. Again, okay, blot off a few times. If your pad is really super juicy, you might have to blot off 50 times, But just in the future, you just kind of lightly dab, and you'll get more of the type of ink application that you're going to after. When you first start tapping this, use a very light touch, okay? I'm just barely touching this. Look at this right here. You can even go like this if you're kind of worried about too much ink applications, See this right here? 2 fingers right there. I don't recommend that. It's kind of uncomfortable to do that. But it's just to come to show you that it's really hard to apply too much when you're just going like this. It's like, I don't know, applying like a delicate powder. But look at that glow that we're starting to achieve right there. All right, so ink up, light touch, okay. Now, I can mask off some clouds up here, but I think I'm just going to do this kind of amorphic type of little trailing kind of, oops, now see that's way too much ink right there, but what you do is you just kind of blend it out like this, okay? I'm kind of blobbing it all over the place right here. Just kind of start blending it in. Don't worry too much about, things in this background though that we're going to get. Okay. Clouds look very different in different areas and different times. See that right there? We just kind of blended it in, and it's okay to have some texture right there. It actually kind of looks like a little bit of a cloud now, doesn't it? As opposed to just kind of straight mist. Okay. All right, so adding this in, and here, that's a good point though. When you start doing this type of thing, I wouldn't necessarily go for absolute consistency, okay? Everything's the exact same smooth application. With clouds, I mean, you have lighting hitting them in different areas, so they look varied, okay? You don't have to have things like completely symmetrical or uniform. Uniformity, in terms of art, could look good, okay? But at times, it could be uniformity, could equate to monotony, all right? And that's not good in terms of, kind of an artistic statement, okay? All right, so adding some clouds up top here. I'm adding a pretty big cloud in front of the moon here. Now, it was kind of intentional, but I just go with what I get, what I'm kind of given to. I am applying it, but inevitably there's a lot of variation that kind of happens and takes place, and I think that's a great thing. All right, adding it in. Okay. Now, let's get some of these clouds down here. I'm going to be stamping this Bayou Shack, so I want a little bit of a light down here in the water, kind of reflecting what's going on up in the sky. I could go for another moon down here, but I think I'll just go for lighting, okay? Something like this down here. I need to stamp out my scene first, or image, and see exactly where I want things to go, though. And kind of rub around like this, too, right? Lapis Lazuli, or the Stardreams in general, do have a little bit of texture, which are fun to work with. You can even use probably a chalk pastel, like a white pastel on here would be a fantastic touch. In fact, that's almost kind of what I'm going after, kind of more of like a chalk pastel type of thing. So, that being said, you don't have some Brilliance white, stamp out your scene, and then apply chalk right over the top of it, or a pastel. Alright, kind of whipping around some different textures on here, like so. Okay, let me get my moon again a little bit. My moon's looking a little bit haggard. Okay, let's heat set this for a little bit. Should be pretty good. This is only an 80-pound Stardream right here. Normally I like thicker papers, but I just bought this one because I was buying so much 101-pound Stardream cover stock. Different colors, and I thought, I'm spending a lot of money on like 25 sheets of 105-pound. I thought, okay, I'm just going to get some 80-pound. And I really like it. I don't know, going back, I might even get other papers in 80-pound. I like 80-pound to stamp on, but, if you're going to mount or mat something, then the thicker ones are good for that. And I use a lot of Stardreams to, mat other pieces with. Okay, so this is a Brilliance Graphite Black on my Bayou shack or house. Now, when I heat set these bottom parts, sometimes the paper gets a little bit ripply. Um, the 80 pound, I don't know, that's one of the things with the 80 pound. The 80 pound doesn't seem to get as rippled, but I don't know, use plenty of pressure. So I'm kind of like pressing over each little area like that. All right, so we have this going right here. And let's heat set this because I'm going to apply some additional tones right over the top of that, and I'll show you just with some easy masking how we'll add that in here. Alright, stamping community, one of the things that will really help me and everyone else, especially in answering questions, is if, with your experience, let me know or let everyone else know what different types of inks you've tried on, say, Stardream papers or iridescent papers, foils. Which one's dried for you? But be specific and say, like, what brand, because sometimes, I don't know, like one brand to the next, it might change, and what paper you've used it on, if it is indeed Stardream, or something else. Okay, so let's see let's keep with the Brilliance applications first here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask off. See this rooftop right here? That's on a different plane, okay, than other parts of the house, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask off that slope right there, okay? And the top one here, let me get a piece of paper. Like something like this. Okay, now you don't need to mask off all four sides, okay? We're not going to do that. That would be really tedious, and it would go against that when I was mentioning, with the variation, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a very tapered type of application of this ink on that part of the house, okay? And I'll put a little bit more in one area and a little bit less as I kind of move down. I mean, it doesn't really matter which area has the most, okay? But just have it a little bit varied, okay? And there we have it, right there. I mean, that was really easy. Do you see that, how the rooftop is now illuminated, right? From the, the moonlight or top lighting, okay? Now see this little part right here that's sticking out, or that area down there on the porch, okay? Let's get those areas masked off. Here, let me grab a smaller piece of paper. I'll just go like this, okay? So here's our porch right here. And I think maybe the back side of the porch, like right here. You just kind of line it up with the design, okay? And there we have this little area in here, and we'll have that area illuminated. I'm going to bring a lot of lighting in onto my windows, okay? So I'm going to put a pretty decent amount of white down in here on my porch, okay? It's going to look strange right now because I don't have my windows illuminated, but there's your porch right there, okay? Illuminated. And then I have the front of this house. I think we can illuminate that a little bit, especially this little, what do you call it? Isn't it awning or something like this, okay? And let's go like this. Alright, let's get a little bit of light up on there. I want to ink up this too much, just so that when you're kind of tapping this out, you're tapping out kind of a really light version of it. Okay, I just re-inked right there because it was like super dry, but okay, now watch where I'll go for a little bit of variation. I'll add a little bit more light here, but maybe not over there, okay? So see, it gives it that type of look. See, it's looking a little bit more three-dimensional that way, don't you think? All right, now I'll leave this area over here a little bit, kind of darker. That being said, let's go with some black brilliant ink and kind of tone out the sides of this. Let's keep this project really simple. I really feel I might have some kind of overhanging thing in here. I might not be able to resist. I was thinking, let's just keep this to a one stamp scenario here. We'll still keep it pretty simple though in the end result. But here's some black ink, okay? And let's add some of these shadows down. My black ink pad is like super juicy right now because I just re-inked it. So be careful about that, okay? But see, this kind of just bring it in kind of streaks like this. We'll especially apply a decent amount to this corner right out here, the four corners, to kind of give it a overall vignette and to contain our composition. It's like if you want to know how to really bring a lot of containment, continuity, focus into your scenes, it's really simple. You just darken the four corners, and that's it, okay? Now, if your scene is very light, like say it's high noon, powder blue skies, and everything like that, don't hit it with black in the corners right here, or, hit it with a little bit of a darker blue, like a, I don't know, whatever, cobalt blue or something like that in the sky, so you just go a little bit darker than the main hue. So if it's blue skies, just a little bit of darker blue in the two corners right there. You have green grass down below, just a little bit darker green grass down here, okay? So, I mean, it doesn't have to go up to black. On this one, black looks great though, but you do that when you've taken your areas fairly dark. But see that right there? See that instant kind of framing? And if you don't know anything about lighting, okay, it just means that you kind of oscillate light in here. It goes light, dark, light, dark. But this little framing right here, it makes your corners darker like that, okay? And what do you get as a result? The interior is lighter, so that is the fastest way to do lighting and just the simplest in terms of concept and application, no matter what your card. It doesn't have to be scenes either. Any type of thing. It says, if you're doing something that says happy birthday, you know how everyone does it. You kind of darken up, your perimeter like that. That's lighting because you're darkening a certain area, around a word stamp or something like that. Well, it's the same for scenes. You're just kind of bringing the focus of the attention onto whatever is within that confines of that whatever card you're working in. Okay. This is giving it a little bit more atmosphere and mood too. Okay. All right, so we have that. Now, let's see here. That being said, you know how we masked off with this for white? Let's do the same thing, but for black. Let's hit the other side of this shack right there with a little bit of black. Let's not tone it out too much, but let's bring in a little bit of value into it, okay? I won't do the whole thing. I'll just do part of it like that. It's subtle though, right? But see right there, it's a little bit darker, and I can even get darker underneath this. Whatever Eve, if we want to, maybe, something like a Q-tip would be easier for this. And actually, this is working pretty good. So I'm kind of making it darker underneath that Eve right there, like on that doorway right there. Okay. This white here is a little bit too dark. I mean, too light, so I just tapped it off a little bit with this. All right, let's have some fun here. Not that the rest of it isn't fun, but let's really bring some light into the shack right here. Okay, you can see where my window are right there. just, this is a white acrylic paint pen. It's 0.7 millimeter Miaosun paint pen. Anytime you do interior lighting on any structure, I think there's an emotional type of quality to it. It makes the setting a lot more kind of inviting or friendly, whatnot. You know what I mean? Something to that type of visual says that there's kind of safety in that space right there. You know what I'm going to do right here? I'm going to add a little bit of lighting to these posts right here. I have never done this. Oops. I think that paint pen dries pretty fast. I just wanted to make sure it was, it was pretty dry. Okay, so let me take this, and it's hard to tell if I'm even getting it right there. There's so little ink on this. Yeah, right there, okay. Okay, let's see the difference between this post right here and this one. See how that kind of stands out a little bit more? Now let's hit this one over here. Some of the easiest masking you'll ever do. I'm going to hit the post reflections in the water a little bit too. Okay. And I've drawn it right into the design, so you don't have to kind of make it up and just reiterate what's already on there. Okay, so see that? Those posts stand out a little bit. That's a little bit too light, but that's all right. It dries darker than what it looks like. Okay, so we have that light in there. Let's put some light into these reflections down here, okay? So I won't be too careful about this one. I'm just going to go like this right here. And I just have a little bit kind of in a part of this cotton ball here. Yeah, there's a little bit too much. Okay, so I could go with the pen down here, but I think maybe kind of a little bit more of a softer reflective glow down there might be maybe better. And then if I want to, if it's not working, then I'll add some more ink down there. So there's that reflection down there. This one's a little bit too light, huh? Let's add a little bit more. Yeah, something like that. Okay. Reflecting some of that light. My water's real murky, so I don't want there to be like a real super strong reflection coming off of it. Okay, so we have that down there. Now let's add in some of these different elements, like these things that are light in here. They're a little bit disconnected with everything overall, okay? So what you do for that is you just take some pigment now, okay? This is where it all comes together for me. I mean, get it up, blot it off a little bit first, and then what you do is you just bring in this kind of this haze. Okay, now see what I'm doing is I'm tapping, and then I'm kind of moving it out, and then I go back to center again, where I started tapping, and then I kind of blend that out a little bit. You kind of tap it a little bit for a few times, and then you kind of move it out like that, okay? There's a little bit of fog right there. And then I can have some fog down here in the water. And that kind of starts blending in that window down there as well. Okay, so this area over here, it looks okay, but I think it looks more interesting if you have kind of this kind of living, kind of moving, you know, fog kind of, it's moving around, so it's like almost like this living kind of entity in itself, you know. It's like an entity made of light, I guess you can say. Okay, so let's kind of some of that down, blending it out. All right, let's put a little bit back here, and ooh, that's too blobby. So just kind of blend it out a little bit. Come into those trees. So I'm kind of bringing everything together in terms of maybe like an emotional quality to it. Certainly gives it a little bit of atmosphere, doesn't it? And then see, this area in here was a little bit boring, so you just put a little bit of mist in there. If you want some of those trees to be a little bit of fog or looking different from another tree, then you put a little bit of pigment ink over the top of it like that. And that gives it that variation. Okay, assessing. I think this needs a little bit of depth. Okay, so I think another tree in here. This is using the larger shack. Or maybe I can just even put these kind of hanging limbs right here. Or we have a choice of I don't know, things like different Spanish moss here. I'm trying to decide what I want. I wanted to keep this one really quite simple, so let's see. Cypress trees flanking. I've done that composition too many times. I wanted to get away from that with the cypresses on both sides. That was with the smaller one, though. Let's go for these hanging leaves, I think. I think that'll give it a nice kind of essence, maybe. I just cleaned off my tack and peel, and it is super, anytime you wash off your tack and peel, which is the thing that allows me to stick my unmounted rubber stamps for a temporary mounting process, anytime you wash this stuff off, it is as tacky as it was brand new. And it just cleans off very easily. I just rubbed it off with my finger. It's ready to go. All right, so let's add in some foreground. A lot of times my foreground is down here, but let's add it up above. So, kind of change the height of it. Going right over my rooftop right there. Kind of make it a little bit denser in some areas. Build it up. You can even go for kind of second impressions. Let's do that. Let's go one impression. Let's go with the second impression. Maybe it stands out a little bit lighter, so you get a little bit more depth. Within that foreground, you have darker and lighter impressions of it. Alright, so how does that look? There. I think I do want something coming up from the bottom, though, huh? Deciding right now. We could just use some reeds or something like that, or I don't know, it could be a bird or something like that. I always always have the cypress knees in here, like so. Could be any number of things. All right, let's just go with some grasses here. Okay. All right. Some see kind of a spooky, type of thing in there. Some might see something else. Personally, I see it as something, I don't know, very tranquil and whatnot. Now, I wouldn't want to be in some kind of unknown area, kind of lost and in the dark, unprepared, and to come across, this location like that. But, I don't know. Okay, now let's add in some little highlights in here, okay? I'm going to add these little touches that they call specular light. I was about to say crepuscular light. These are those little kind of sparkly little gems. I tend to think, now, speaking of that kind of emotional quality to it, I see these little things like this as being, I don't know, very, kind of magical or something like that. When you see these little crystalline, kind of little sparkles of light, you can put it on some of your tree limbs, catching some of that light from the moon in this case. You barely see the moon in there, actually, anymore. I've kind of diffused it so much, but these little white little dots like this, kind of, I don't know, it makes the whole piece kind of glistening and alive, and I don't know, I think not spooky, if it was spooky, but see that up there? It's like little magical sparkles like that. Okay, but what's really fun in a kind of scenario like this is to add our little lightning bugs, okay? Like stars, I would kind of put them a little bit at random in some areas, okay? I'll make some ones a little bit larger here and there. If I had a little, like a light green one, I'd use that. See, I'm kind of grouping a couple together right there. All right, but that's not it. Here, I'll show you what I'll do with those. And we'll grab a Q-tip. It's a great tool for the stamper. And we'll grab our pad again. I guess you can kind of make some of these green. Maybe you can color them with a little bit of a gel pen. So you kind of like the white down there, okay? The white has been laid down. Now if I just went straight green over the top of that, the green's completely, I don't know, it's like transparent, so you can't see like green. But now that we've laid the white down, let's see if we can turn some of these little green dots, white dots a little bit green. Yeah. Now, I don't know if you can see that. See, because I'm kind of coloring the dot now, the white. Can't see it too much on some of them. I can mostly see it on larger ones here. But that's for all of you that are living in or have lived in or whatever, in that lightning bug, firefly territory, where you've seen them. I've always heard, they have a little bit more of a greenish glow. Okay. All right, so this is really important. You take some ink like that, and then you really have to kind of blot it off for a little bit so that you're not applying a big blob of ink. Also kind of loosen up your con a little bit. In this case, I still want it very targeted in a small little area, so I won't loosen this up too much. Okay. All right, and then you start adding a very delicate amount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, that was 20 very light taps, and I got that little bug glowing there. Okay. Okay. So see that? You just don't. You don't kind of go into it and tap. Like you're tapping through the paper, to the other side of the world or anything like that. And then you'll get exactly kind of the amount that you want. These bugs in the background, maybe they're not glowing as much, because they're more distant, so you just go a few taps on it. There's like 5 little taps on that. 8. 6. And they don't have to glow equally, too, okay? From all the ones in the distance. Be careful around any kind of ink that hasn't been heat set. You don't want to kind of touch it like that. Otherwise it'll smear. Alright, so see that right there? I have a little lightning bug tear. Yeah, you can see a little green in there, right? Okay, let me change my exposure here. Okay, that's more like it. That's more like kind of what I'm looking at here. You see those little bugs? I mean, that becomes kind of they kind of become the star of the scene, don't they? In terms of the kind of the overall feel of the piece. And you can see that, Stardream kind of iridescent type of paper. Again, and the color of this paper is this right here, okay? It's like polished aluminum or something like that, like blue aluminum. But you can do this on other types of papers, but you get that little bit of extra kind of touch. I've covered up a lot of it in here, but you can see it kind of glow through, down here, where it hasn't been stamped over with the white ink or the black imagery and whatnot. But little fun stuff. Okay, so anyways, the light show, Bayou Light show or whatnot, using Stardream inks and just a very simple application of 2 inks, for the most part, black and white on top of it, and then you have that little bit of green in there. And I think there's a lot of distance and atmosphere in here too, with pretty simple techniques and just really simple masking techniques, and just kind of bringing out little areas of the structure like that. So just 2 masks when you do this, okay? Like that. There was one, the posts are like that. You don't have to mask off everything and start taping everything down. Just keep it real simple, because that application of the ink is going to be varied, and you're not trying to do the whole thing. Have it just, varied and kind of more natural looking that way. All right. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, hope you hit the like button. And thanks, as always, for tuning into the Stampscapes channel. I really appreciate it.